The storms of climate change are coming. Now's the time to get the right coverage for your home and your car.
Here's your blankie. Night-night.
The right coverage, the right broker. ASI Financial Group, formerly Assurance Sénécal, a financial services firm. 514-363-30.
Our guest in studio this morning, Dr. David Suzuki. Obviously, environment a global issue, but in terms of Canadians or more specifically Montrealers, how far off the mark are we? How is Montreal?
We've got a long way to go, but part of the problem is the gap between knowledge, awareness that there's a problem, and then implementing change in our lives. People are willing to do things like stop using their car less, but what they want is to be able to get to and from work or wherever they're going at a fairly brisk rate. And that's the problem. We don't have the infrastructure to allow people to make that choice.
One of our listeners emailed, how do you convince the non-believers at this point that there's something that we need to do?
Well, I mean, if people are still non-believers, well, in terms of what? I mean...
Well, they don't think that it's man-made and that the world will...
We're talking about climate change now.
Yeah.
This is a very difficult thing. The deniers, so much of it is just what you have in your own head, and if you don't want to believe in climate change, you can go to the internet and find all kinds of websites saying global warming's a scam, it's junk science, it's baloney. And so people can find anything to confirm their biases, and they don't have to change their mind.
Right.
You have to ask questions like, who's putting the money behind this website? Guess what, folks? It's a fossil fuel industry.
Yeah.
So we have to be much more critical in terms of the information we get.
You mentioned Al Gore earlier, and his movie An Inconvenient Truth obviously brought the environment and
huge impact.
Yeah. But you talked about websites that criticize, and a lot of people. I got a few emails yesterday from people saying, "Well, Al Gore this and Al Gore that," and look at how he lives, and he's really one of the big polluters himself. But even if that's true, does his movie not necessarily compensate? But we all do damage to the environment, but his movie has to have brought the environment to front of mind for a lot more people.
Yeah, his movie just precipitated everything. I mean, things had been building at the grassroots level, but then his film came along and it just made everything so graphic. It was a very powerful instrument. I think he well deserved the Nobel Prize for that. But there are people that are going to be picking at every little thing. We hear it from the so-called skeptics who say, "Oh, it's sunspots. Humans are so insignificant. Water is a major greenhouse gas. Carbon dioxide's at a low concentration." All of these things, and so again, people have to be more critical about who they listen to.
You were saying kids are the key to adults' ears these days?
Well, kids, the thing I've found over the years is adults are very difficult to change their minds. They've gone through university, they got a job, they get married, they buy a house, and then along come the environmentalists saying, now you've got to change, and they don't like that. They've got into a groove, and they've got into a comfortable place. The one vulnerable place that adults have is their children. So half the books I've written, for example, have been for kids. Not because I believe we can wait till they grow up and replace us. We don't have that time. But if they ask, Mom, Dad, I'm worried. What about the air? What about the water I'm drinking? Then it seems to me adults have no choice. If you love your children, you have to be asking, what kind of a world are we leaving them? And kids now have the most at stake in what changes are going on.
Let's mention your website and the Nature Challenge. I signed up yesterday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You joined over a third of a million Canadians.
Well, I think this is, we were talking about grassroots and what we can do individually, and this struck me as something that we can do. Can you give the website? Can you tell us what exactly the Nature Challenge is?
So it's davidsuzuki.org, and then right on the first page you're going to find the Nature Challenge. There's a Nature Challenge for kids, Nature Challenge for business. But these are the 10 most effective things that we as individuals can do to lighten our impact on the earth. And we focused on the 3 areas, on what we eat, where we live, and how we move. And those are areas, we've mentioned giving up meat. If you leave your car at home one day a week and take public transit, for example, you can measure the impact of that one thing. Now, even if all Canadians did all 10 of these things, it's significant, but it's still not going to get us on the other path. But getting involved personally is a way of seeing, I see. Well, there are lots of things I can do, and I'm starting to do things now. What about the guys that we elect to office? They ought to be showing some leadership as well and taking us down onto a different path.
Can you give us 3 things that would just things around the house that we could do that would make the biggest impact? We hear a lot about the CFL light bulbs. Are they as as important as everybody says? Is the ad campaigns?
CFL light bulbs, they're 80% more efficient than an incandescent.
Right.
So there's no question that by installing a CFL, you're going to reduce the amount of electricity you need. Now, one of the problems we have in the household is there are a lot of machines that we think are off. Like your microwave, like your computer, your television set. But in fact, they're trickling energy. They call them vampires. They're constantly sucking energy to keep the things warm so that when you push a button, up it comes instantly. So we've got to look around the house and find ways that we can effectively, if you hook your machines to a power bar and at night you can just click a button and turn the works off, you can begin to reduce your energy demand. I think the simplest thing in the house you can do is insulate it and seal all the holes which are letting heat out in the winter and heat in the summer. But you can effectively reduce your energy bill, and as the cost of energy climbs, you're going to save money.
One final quick question, Dr. Suzuki. When do we get to the point of no return? How close are we?
Well, I don't think a lot of people said the 1990s were the turnaround decade. If we didn't turn it around by the year 2000, we were toast. Well, guess what? 2000 came. We're still in here struggling, and I don't think anyone really knows, and I don't think it helps us to say right now, the end is nigh. We just don't know. We're in a very critical crunch. For me, when 15% of our kids are born and develop asthma, something's wrong right there. When you look at 1 out of 8 women developing breast cancer, we've got a problem here, and we ought to start dealing with it. We've got a crisis. Let's get on with it.
Thanks very much for coming in this morning.
Hey, you guys got to play my song.
We're going to have to do the news first.
Yeah, I see.
And then we'll play your song.
All right.
We asked Dr. Suzuki what his favorite classic rock song was, and he went with, of course, the very environmentally friendly Peter Garrett and Midnight Oil. So, who's now, you mentioned this, and I completely
Who's now the
forgot.
Minister of the Environment in the federal government, and who's a pal of ours.
Very cool. Dr. David Suzuki, thank you so much for taking time out and giving us a little education this morning.
Good to be here.